Millionaire boy takes street kid identical to him home. The boy's answer reveals a shocking secret. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Now take a deep breath and get ready. Because this story starts with a mirror and ends with something no one expected. Jace Callahan sat alone at the head of a marble dining table that could seat 20, a single plate of untouched French toast resting in front of him. Outside, the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Portland penthouse rain drizzled against the glass, like nature itself was too bored to commit to a real storm. The room around him was so silent it hummed. No voices, no footsteps. Just the faint buzz of the security cameras and the ever-present hush of wealth. He should have felt proud. At 16, Jace was one of the youngest self-made millionaires in the Pacific Northwest. The app he created at 13, Codecraft Jr., had gone viral for teaching kids how to build games with simple commands. By 15, he had negotiated his own acquisition deal and walked away with a fortune large enough to make headlines. There were articles, TED Talks, even an invitation to speak at a global summit on youth innovation, which he turned down with a polite no thank you. People called him brilliant, a prodigy, a once-in-a-generation mind. But none of them knew how often Jace sat like this, staring out the window, thinking absolutely nothing. That morning he skipped his morning meeting with his legal guardian and manager Raymond Calder, choosing instead to pull on a hoodie and slip out through the underground garage unnoticed. He walked the misty sidewalks of downtown Portland, hands in his pockets, no particular destination in mind. His sneakers, custom and barely worn, slapped against the damp pavement like they did not belong. The sky hung low and gray, making everything feel heavier. He passed people without seeing them until something made him stop. Across the street outside a small corner deli, a boy was crouched on the sidewalk, carefully unwrapping a half-eaten sandwich from a crumpled paper bag. He had dark, unruly hair that curled slightly at the ends. Pale skin, a lean frame that suggested too little food and too many nights in the cold. But what made Jace freeze was not the boy's appearance. It was his face. It was his face. The boy looked exactly like him, not similar, not like one of those celebrity lookalikes on the internet. No, he was identical. Jace stepped back as if struck. He looked again. The boy licked mustard off his fingers, glanced up, and for a split second their eyes met. Same gray-green eyes, same sharp jawline, same dimple faint but visible on the left cheek. Jace felt his heart slam against his ribs. The boy looked away just as quickly, standing and brushing off his jeans. He slung a torn backpack over one shoulder and began walking. Without thinking, Jace followed. He stayed on the opposite sidewalk, keeping pace as the boy weaved through side streets. The kid walked like someone used to being ignored, head down steps, quick shoulders tense. They moved past shuttered shops, boarded-up buildings, and a mural of a whale painted across a crumbling wall. Finally, the boy ducked into an alley between two apartment complexes. Jace hesitated, then crossed the street and stepped into the alley. A stray cat hissed and darted away. Trash bins overflowed. The boy had stopped near a metal staircase, digging through his backpack. Jace approached slowly. The boy heard him and turned. The look on his face was not surprise. It was annoyance, like being followed was just another Tuesday. Jace opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The boy beat him to it. "You want something?" Jace blinked. I just... The boy stared, waiting. "You look like me," Jace said finally. The boy smirked without humor. "Lucky you." Then he turned to leave. "Wait," Jace called. The boy stopped, not turning around. "I'm Jace, Jace Callahan." The boy slowly turned his head, studying him again. His expression was unreadable. "Callahan. Huh, the tech kid." Jace nodded. Look, this is weird, but have you ever done one of those DNA tests?" The boy snorted. "You rich kids always think everything is some science project." Jace stepped forward. "I'm serious. We look exactly alike. That doesn't just happen. Maybe it does. Maybe it's a glitch in the simulation. Who knows?" The boy adjusted his backpack. You should go back to your tower, mirror boy. This ain't your neighborhood. Mirror boy. That one stung more than he expected. What's your name, he asked. The boy hesitated. Then flatly, Noah. Jace swallowed. You live around here. That depends. Are you with someone, police news? No, I'm just me. That's what worries me. Noah turned to go again, but this time Jace stepped in front of him. Please, I'm not trying to hurt you. I need to understand this. My face is your face. That's not normal. Noah looked him up and down, took in the clean clothes, the expensive shoes, the uncalloused hands. You ever sleep in a drainage pipe? Jace blinked. What, you ever wash your hair with dish soap in a diner bathroom? Steal stale muffins from the trash because your stomach sounds like a broken engine? Jace's voice was soft. No. Noah nodded. Exactly. You live in my face, but you don't live my life. Jace took a step back. I didn't choose this. Neither did I. Noah's eyes flared. That's the point. Something about his words made Jace's stomach twist. Do you have any family, he asked. Noah flinched. Don't. I'm just asking. Noah reached into his backpack and pulled out a small, creased photograph. He shoved it at Jace. Look. You tell me. Jace took the photo. It was of a baby, swaddled in a yellow blanket. On the back, written in fading ink, was a name. Jace. He looked up. That's my name. Noah shrugged. Found it in a file box at a shelter 3 years ago, along with a hospital tag and a birth certificate with no last name. I used to think it was a mistake. Until I saw your face on a billboard last year. My launch ad, Jace realized. Outside the stadium. Noah nodded. That's when I knew. Knew what Jace whispered. That someone took my life. He leaned in so close their faces nearly touched. You're not supposed to be Jace Callahan. I am. With that, he turned and disappeared into the shadows of the alley. Jace stood there, the photo shaking in his hand. Rain began to fall harder. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but he did not check it. Could not. The world had tilted sideways and he was sliding towards something he did not understand. Back in his penthouse hours later, he sat on the edge of his bed staring at the photo. He pulled out his tablet, opened a search engine, and typed the name of the hospital where he was born. He clicked through old news archives, lawsuits, audits. One article caught his eye. A former staff member claimed the hospital had destroyed dozens of birth records from the early 2000s after closing a wing due to ethical violations. Jace leaned back, the air tight in his lungs. Who was he? And more importantly, who had decided for him Jace did not sleep that night? The photo Noah had given him sat on the nightstand beside his untouched dinner, illuminated by the soft glow of the reading lamp. It was small and worn at the edges, its corners curled and cracked like it had passed through 100 hands before finding his. The name scrawled on the back haunted him. Jace. It was not the name that unnerved him, but the possibility that it had belonged to someone else first, or worse, that it had never belonged to him at all. He paced the length of his room barefoot on the polished hardwood, mind racing. Every question multiplied, every answer split into more questions. How could a street kid have a photo with his name? Why did they look like twins? Why had Raymond, his legal guardian, never once mentioned anything about his birth family? Jace had been told his parents died in a car crash when he was a toddler. He had no memory of them, no photos, just vague stories Raymond used to tell when reporters asked about brilliant parents who encouraged Jace's coding passion from the crib. But even those stories had faded, rewritten, sanitized. Jace pulled out the birth certificate locked away in his file drawer. It listed his name, Jace Emery Callahan, born at St. Vivian's Medical Center. No parents' names. Just a single signature at the bottom that looked more like a stamp than a real mark. Something in his gut shifted. He needed answers, and not from Raymond. Not yet. Not until he understood what he was dealing with. By morning, he made a decision. He pulled on jeans and a plain hoodie, tossed the photo into his pocket, and walked out of the penthouse. The doorman started to greet him, but Jace held up a hand and kept walking. This time he went back to the alley where he had met Noah. It was empty. just the lingering scent of wet concrete and rotting cardboard. He waited a while, scanning every passing face, but Noah did not appear. After an hour, he walked to the corner deli and ordered 2 hot sandwiches and 2 bottles of water. When the clerk handed them over, Jace glanced around. "Any chance you've seen a kid with a black backpack hanging around?" "Looks like me." The clerk raised an eyebrow. "Your twin." "Something like that." The man thought for a moment, then nodded toward the alley. "Saw someone like that yesterday. Comes around late. You might try St. Giles Shelter down on 8th. He's not always welcome there, but sometimes they give out clean socks." Jace thanked him and took the food with him. 8th Street was further than he expected. The city changed block by block. Luxury condos gave way to thrift stores, pawn shops, and forgotten laundromats. He passed a broken payphone, a boarded-up diner, and a mural of 2 children holding hands in front of a burning house. St. Giles Shelter looked like a church from the outside, but the inside was all metal chairs and quiet stairs. He stepped inside hesitantly, trying not to draw attention. A woman in a blue sweatshirt approached. "You need help, hon? I'm looking for someone." "His name's Noah. He's 16. Thin. Dark hair." She studied Jace's face and narrowed her eyes. "He been in trouble?" "No, I think we're related." She hesitated, then nodded toward the back. "You might find him in the basement hall. We serve soup in the mornings." Jace walked past rows of tired eyes and folded coats down a narrow stairwell that creaked under his weight. At the bottom, he found a dimly lit room with folding tables and people eating slowly from paper bowls. He scanned the faces. Then he saw him. Noah sat at the far end, one leg tucked under him, eating soup with one hand while flipping through a worn paperback with the other. His backpack sat beside him. Jace approached slowly. "I brought food." Noah looked up, not surprised. "Took you long enough?" Jace sat across from him and set the sandwich down. Noah glanced at it, then took a bite of the one he already had. "I didn't think I'd see you again," Jace said. Noah swallowed. "Yeah, well, I figured you'd either disappear or show up with a camera crew." "I came alone." Noah looked at him sideways. "You always do." They ate in silence for a few minutes. Jace watched him carefully. "You said something yesterday about someone stealing your life." Noah chewed slowly, then set the sandwich down. "I said what I meant." "Do you remember your parents?" Jace asked. Noah's jaw clenched. "No, just stories from people who barely knew them. My foster record said I was found at a train station when I was 3. No ID, no family, just the photo and a hospital tag that said St. Vivian's. Same hospital I was born in. That was what started it. Years ago, I tried to look it up. Called them. Went there. But they had no records. Said too many files were lost in a flood. Convenient." Jace nodded slowly. "I checked last night. That hospital shut down part of their maternity wing around that time. There were lawsuits. Allegations of illegal adoptions." Noah's eyes flickered. "I know. I found an article once. It talked about falsified documents and sealed files, but they said it was just a few isolated cases. What if we were one of them?" Jace said. Noah looked down. "That's what I've always wondered. But wondering does not change anything. I sleep in a shelter. You sleep in silk sheets. Maybe I'm just a glitch, a copy that should have been deleted." "Don't say that." "Why not? It's how the world sees me." Jace shook his head. "Not anymore. I want to figure this out. All of it. I want to know who we are." Noah narrowed his eyes. "And if we are brothers? If we were split at birth or whatever you think happened? Then we find out who did it. And why. And then what, you going to share your castle? Invite me to live like a prince?" Jace looked at him earnestly. "I want to help. I have resources. You have pieces of the puzzle I never knew existed." Noah leaned back. "I don't need your charity. I didn't say charity. I said help. There's a difference." Noah considered him. "You ever slept in a basement like this?" "No." "You ever been called a liar for trying to find your name?" "No." "You ever been kicked out of a home for asking too many questions?" "No." Then don't act like we're equals just because we look the same. We are not the same. Maybe not. Jace admitted. But we might be pieces of the same story. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the photo. I scanned this last night, uploaded it into a private DNA testing app I've been working on. Noah stiffened. You what? It doesn't upload to the cloud. It's completely encrypted. I just wanted to see if anything came up. Did it? Jace hesitated. It flagged a partial sibling match. To me. Noah stared. That could mean a lot of things. We share markers, but not exact matches. Could be cousins, could be half-siblings, could be twins with mutations. So what now, Jace asked. You want to take a test? A real one. Noah's mouth was tight. What happens if we do? And the results say we're family. What then? I do not know. But I'd rather live with truth than keep guessing. Noah looked at him for a long time. Fine, but on one condition. What, you let me stay at your place until the results come back? Just a few nights. I want to see what it's like. Jace hesitated. Deal. Noah stood slinging his backpack over one shoulder. Then let's go, Mirror Boy. You've got a guest. Jace followed him up the stairs out into the city, and for the first time he felt something strange. Not fear, not guilt, but the sense that a story was about to begin. One he had been born into but never allowed to know. Yet now, with every step, that story was unfolding. And it had a new narrator, his twin, or his shadow, or maybe, just maybe, his brother. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent, the kind of silence that carried weight. Jace stood with his hands in his pockets, watching the floor numbers blink slowly above the doors. Noah leaned against the mirrored wall, arms crossed, his eyes flicking around the luxurious interior like it was some kind of movie set. He did not speak, but Jace could feel the sharpness in his presence. Not distrust exactly, more like readiness. Noah was not the kind of person who relaxed easily, not even when offered shelter. The doors opened onto a wide, sunlit hallway lined with abstract art and low hums of ambient music. Noah stepped out cautiously, his sneakers quiet on the polished floor. Jace led him into the main living space where floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the corner of the building, giving an uninterrupted view of the Willamette River and the bridges beyond. The city looked like a toy town from up here, miniature and far away. This is where you live? Noah asked, finally glancing at the glass walls and spotless furniture. Alone, Jace nodded. Mostly. Raymond comes and goes. The staff cleans twice a week. I do not need much. Noah snorted. That might be the saddest thing I have ever heard. You have all this space and no one to share it with. I had people around when the money started. Lawyers, investors, interview requests. I stopped inviting people in when I realized they were only interested in what I had not, who I was. Noah walked to the window, pressed his hand to the glass. He stared for a long time. That's Forest Park, Jace said, pointing toward a stretch of trees beyond the buildings. We can go there sometime if you want. Noah did not answer. He turned and looked around again, his voice low. This place is too clean. Feels like no one lives here. Jace smiled faintly. You will mess it up in no time. Noah cracked half a smile. I will do my best. Jace led him to the guest bedroom down the hall, a space designed for visiting executives or investors. The bed had never been used. The sheets were still factory folded beneath the cover. Noah dropped his backpack on the floor and opened it, pulling out a hoodie, a pair of socks, and a toothbrush, so worn the bristles splayed in all directions. That's it, Jace asked gently. Noah shrugged. I do not like being weighed down. You can borrow some clothes if you want. Bathroom is through there. Shower, towels, all yours. Noah nodded but said nothing. He took the toothbrush and disappeared into the bathroom, the door clicking shut behind him. Jace stood alone in the doorway for a moment before retreating to his own room. He sat at his desk, opened his laptop, and stared at the login screen without typing. His thoughts were tangled. What if this was all a mistake? What if the partial DNA match was coincidence? He had used an encrypted ancestry app he had built last year, one that scanned submitted photos and compared facial markers to its private database. It was not as accurate as medical-grade testing, but it was not just guessing either. It had pinged a near-perfect match with Noah's photo. He pulled open a browser and began digging deeper. St. Vivian's Medical Center. The articles were there again. Lawsuits from the early 2000s, accusations of unethical adoptions. 2 former nurses had testified that certain infants had been placed with high-profile families under sealed documents all under the table. One had recanted. The other disappeared. The hospital closed the maternity wing in 2006. Jace leaned back and rubbed his face with both hands. It was like chasing shadows. He needed something more. A voice. A witness. Someone who had seen what happened. His phone buzzed. A message from Mila Grant. Jace, it's Mila. I saw the photo you posted to the private inquiry board. You said the other boy's name was Noah. Where did you find him? He blinked. Mila Grant was an investigative journalist who ran a secure database of missing children reports and identity irregularities. He had submitted the photo to her network late last night on impulse. She must have run a reverse search, he typed back. He found me. Long story. Can we talk? The reply was instant. Yes, I will come to you. Today. When Noah emerged from the shower 20 minutes later, he wore one of Jace's old hoodies and a clean pair of sweatpants. His hair was damp and pushed back, making the resemblance even more startling. You cleaned up all right, Jace said. Noah ignored the compliment and walked into the kitchen, opening cabinets until he found cereal. He poured a bowl, sat at the counter, and began eating like he had not eaten in days. Jace did not interrupt. He waited. After a while, Noah spoke through a mouthful of food. Who is Mila? She's coming by later. She works on identity theft and missing persons. I uploaded your photo last night. She recognized the name. Noah froze mid-chew. You what? She might know something about your past, maybe even about mine. Noah set the spoon down. I did not agree to be investigated. I'm not investigating you, Jace said carefully. I'm trying to help both of us. You think you can fix everything with one phone call? No. But I can try, and she's already on her way. Noah stood and walked to the window again. He stared out in silence. You should have asked, he said, finally. I am sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. You are used to having the power to act without permission. I am used to being alone, Jace replied. Noah turned. Then maybe this time do it differently. They said nothing else for a while. When the doorbell rang an hour later, Jace opened it to find Mila Grant standing there, a tote bag over one shoulder, her dark hair tied back in a practical braid. She looked like someone who had seen too much and stopped pretending otherwise. You must be Jace, she said. And you must be the only adult I trust right now, he replied. She smiled slightly and stepped inside. When her eyes landed on Noah, she blinked hard. The boys looked like ghosts, standing side by side. Well, she said softly, I will be honest. I was not expecting this much resemblance. We were not either. Noah muttered. Mila pulled out a folder from her bag and set it on the kitchen table. Years ago, I investigated a lead about illegal adoptions at St. Vivian's. The trail went cold, but I kept the records. There was a case involving twins. One was adopted by a private client. The other vanished. The birth mother was a teenager who later disappeared from the foster system. Do you have names? Jace asked. No. The files were sealed, but I did track down one nurse who worked in the maternity ward at the time, Evelyn Sorrell. She lives just outside the city, retired. She stopped talking to the press after someone threatened her job. But she might talk to you. Noah crossed his arms. And you just trust her. No, Mila said. But she is our next thread. If this is as deep as I think it is, someone wanted it buried. And if you boys are truly related, that someone may not be happy you found each other. Jace exchanged a glance with Noah. This is bigger than us. Everything, as Mila said. But it does not mean you do not deserve the truth. When she left, Jace stood at the window watching the clouds gather over the city. She's right, Noah said behind him. About what? Everything. But mostly that we were not supposed to find each other. Which means whoever kept us apart, Might not stop now. Then let them try, Jace whispered. I am not afraid anymore. That makes one of us, Noah muttered. But even as he said it, he moved closer to stand beside Jace at the glass, two identical silhouettes against the light facing the coming storm. The following morning arrived wrapped in gray mist and the quiet hum of rain against the penthouse windows. Jace stood at the kitchen counter pouring hot water into a ceramic mug, watching the steam curl into the air. He had not slept well. His mind had been turning all night, haunted by possibilities. Somewhere between the memory of Noah's voice and the weight of Mila's files, the world had started to feel both smaller and more dangerous. Noah appeared in the hallway, wearing another borrowed hoodie and a look that said he had not slept either. His hair was still damp from a recent shower, and his eyes were darker than the night before. He moved like someone who never fully relaxed, even indoors, even safe. Jace slid a second mug across the counter. Tea, not coffee. Easier on nerves. Noah took it without a word, leaned against the island, and stared out at the river. You think this Evelyn lady will actually talk to us? Mila said she might. She agreed to a meeting. I asked her myself. Noah nodded slowly, then took a sip. What if she lies? Then we lie better, Jace said. But something in his chest tightened. He did not want to lie. Not anymore. They ate a quiet breakfast. Afterward, Jace opened his laptop and logged into the encrypted platform where the real DNA test was pending. They had both submitted cheek swabs to a private lab in Vancouver 48 hours earlier. It was fast, expensive, and fully confidential. The screen blinked once. A new notification appeared. Results available. Jace glanced over at Noah, who stood frozen at the doorway. You sure? Jace asked. Noah hesitated. Then he crossed the room, nodding once. Jace clicked. The page loaded slowly. Lines of digital text unfolded like a curtain lifting. Relationship full sibling probability. 99.99% genetic markers. Identical in all critical categories. Jace stared at the words. He felt like the floor shifted beneath him, like he was floating and sinking at the same time. We are twins, he whispered. That is not a guess. That is a fact. Noah said nothing for a long time. Then he turned away, hands pressed to his forehead. I knew, he muttered. I knew it. I just never thought someone would prove it. Jace stepped closer. You okay? Noah nodded, then shook his head. It is stupid. I should be angry, but all I feel is quiet. Sometimes truth is like that, Jace said. It does not shout. It just stands there until you are ready to see it. They stood together in the silence until Mila arrived. She stepped inside with her coat still wet from the rain. Her eyes moved between the two boys and immediately knew something had shifted. You found something, she said. Jace turned the screen to her. Mila read the results, then closed the laptop with slow reverence. That changes everything. What do we do now? Noah asked. Now we go see Evelyn Sorrell. The drive to Evelyn's cottage took an hour. The roads wound through the outskirts of the city, past tall evergreens and abandoned barns. Rain followed them like a quiet companion. Mila drove her fingers tight around the wheel. Jace sat in the front. Noah sat behind him, staring out the window with eyes that never stopped searching. Evelyn lived in a small, pale yellow house with a sagging porch and wind chimes made of old silver spoons. The garden was wild but well tended. Birds hopped between wet branches. Mila rang the doorbell twice. When no one answered, she knocked. Finally, the door creaked open. A woman stood there, wrapped in a shawl, her hair a mix of white and faded auburn. Her eyes were tired but sharp. You must be Mila, she said. And you must be Evelyn. Evelyn nodded and stepped aside. Come in. But quietly. My dog is asleep and older than I am. They stepped into a small living room that smelled of books and chamomile. Jace noticed old photos on the mantel, none of which showed children. Evelyn sat down slowly in a chair by the window. I thought I would never see anyone from St. Vivian's again. We are not here to blame you, Mila said. We just need to understand. Evelyn looked at the boys. Her eyes lingered on their faces. You are the twins, she said. It was not a question. How did you know? Jace asked. Because I remember delivering you. Both of you. Jace's breath caught. Noah stiffened beside him. Evelyn looked down at her hands. It was a strange day. Your mother came in late alone. No partner, no family. She was scared, but strong. She went into labor just past midnight. Did she know she was having twins? Mila asked. She suspected. But the official paperwork listed only one baby. That was intentional. Who changed it? Jace asked. Your mother's file had been flagged. Special case. Private adoption arranged in advance. That happened more than it should have. I was not supposed to say anything. But you did. Noah asked. I told her the truth. I told her there were 2 heartbeats. She cried. She begged to keep you both. So what happened? The next morning a man arrived. Expensive suit. Confident. He said he was from the adoption agency. But I knew better. He gave orders. Said one child would be placed with the client and the other would be sent to state care. But there would be no record of that. No names. Just erased, like he never existed. Which one was chosen? Jace asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You were, Evelyn said. She looked directly at him. The one who cried less. Jace sat down heavily. Noah stared at the floor. What about our mother? Mila asked. She tried to stop it. She screamed. She fought. They sedated her. When she woke, they told her the second baby died. I was forced to sign the form. And you never spoke up, Noah demanded. I did, Evelyn said. Once. I gave an anonymous tip to a reporter. The next day my car was vandalized. My mailbox burned. I received letters warning me to keep quiet. Who was the man? Mila asked. I never learned his name. But he had a scar on his hand like a burn. Ring finger. Left hand. Jace looked up sharply. Raymond. His voice was hollow. My guardian. He has a burn just like that. Mila's expression darkened. Evelyn reached into a drawer and pulled out a small envelope. I kept this, she said. It is a copy of the intake form with both names. There is no birth certificate for the second child, just a number. She handed it to Jace. His hands trembled as he took it. Thank you, Mila said. You have done more than you know. Evelyn looked at the boys one last time. I never forgot you. Either of you. I prayed someone would bring you back together. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sun began to pierce the clouds in soft beams. Back in the car, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, Noah said, So what now? We go public, Mila said. Carefully. We expose what happened. We use the DNA results, Evelyn's testimony, everything. Jace nodded. But not just to punish anyone, to find out who else this happened to. There are probably more. You are serious? Noah asked. Dead serious. Mila glanced in the rearview mirror. You boys are not just a story. You are proof. As they drove back toward the city, the road ahead shimmered under the wet light, and for the first time since their lives had collided, Jace and Noah were not just surviving. They were beginning to fight back. Together. The next few days moved like water under ice, slow on the surface but roiling just beneath. Jace could feel it. Every time he looked across the room and saw Noah pacing the penthouse or staring silently at the view from the glass wall, it felt like they were both waiting for something neither of them could name. The DNA results, Evelyn Sorrell's confession, and the old intake form she gave them had cracked something open, but what lay beneath had yet to be unearthed. Mila called daily, her voice always calm, focused, professional. She had begun assembling a formal case. She recorded her interview with Evelyn, gathered copies of the DNA tests, and filed a secure report to a network of investigative reporters who specialized in buried adoption scandals. But she warned them not to speak publicly yet. It was too early, too dangerous. If the man behind this was Raymond Calder, and if he had orchestrated not just a single separation but multiple secret placements for profit, then they had to be ready before confronting him. Jace spent hours searching the digital archives of St. Vivian's. He found half-deleted entries, broken links, and dozens of redacted pages. Every trace of what happened to Noah had been wiped from the official record. It was as if he had never existed. But Jace had the number from Evelyn's file, the state ID assigned to the second child. And through a backdoor in the health records network, one he had quietly built as a security test for his own systems, he managed to trace that number to an old facility no longer in operation. It was a foster intake center called Haven Ridge, shut down 12 years ago for health code violations and suspected mismanagement. He found the address buried in a court document and copied it down. That night, over lukewarm takeout noodles, he slid the paper across the table to Noah. "I want to go there," Jace said, "just to see. Maybe they kept something." Noah stared at the address. Haven Ridge. I was 3 when I came out of there. I do not remember it, but the name, it feels wrong. Like it was supposed to be something good, but it never was. "Will you come with me?" Jace asked. Noah did not answer right away. Then he nodded. The next morning they borrowed Mila's old sedan. Jace had a sleek black SUV parked in the garage, but he did not want to be seen. Not yet. The drive took 40 minutes into the hills just outside the city. The air grew cooler, the trees denser. Eventually they found the building tucked between moss-covered rocks and the remnants of a crumbling chain-link fence. The place looked abandoned. Windows boarded, paint peeling, weeds growing wild. The front gate creaked as they pushed it open. The main door was unlocked. Inside, the air was stale with mildew and dust. Old posters about safety and manners peeled from the walls. A small wooden desk sat in the entrance with a nameplate that read, Director Carter, though the name had long since faded. Noah walked ahead, silent, his steps careful. They moved through the first floor past offices filled with broken filing cabinets and scattered papers. Most of it was ruined. Water damage had turned most files to pulp. Jace took photos of what he could. Noah led him toward the back down a narrow hallway that ended in a locked metal door. A sign above read, Records. "Of course," Jace muttered. He knelt, inspecting the lock. "Can you pick it?" Noah asked. "No, but I can break it." He pulled a screwdriver from his coat and wedged it into the space between the lock and the door frame. With effort, he pried until the latch bent and the door popped open with a metallic groan. Inside it was dark and cold. Shelves lined the walls, some collapsed, others still holding faded boxes. Jace turned on his phone flashlight. Dust danced in the beam. They split up, each moving along the opposite wall. Jace opened box after box, flipping through warped files, old photos, incomplete charts. Most had nothing useful. But in the corner of the room behind a half-fallen cabinet, Noah called out. "Here." Jace hurried over. Noah held an old file folder marked only with a number. The same number from Evelyn's document. They opened it together. Inside were copies of handwritten notes, a birth record with no name, a medical report listing developmental concerns due to early neglect, and a photo of a child no older than 3, wide-eyed and clutching a stuffed rabbit. The date matched the year Noah would have entered the system. "That's me," Noah said softly. "That's the rabbit I used to carry around. I remember the ear was torn." Jace flipped to the final page. It was a placement order. The name of the guardian had been blacked out, but the signature at the bottom was still visible. "R. Calder," Raymond Jace whispered. "He signed you into the system, not just as a guardian, as the one who placed you. He made it official and then made sure it vanished." Noah stood frozen. All this time, he knew. They took the file and left. Back at the car, Jace scanned every page and uploaded them to Mila's secure server. She answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" she asked. "We went to Haven Ridge. We found the intake file. Raymond signed it. It was not just unethical, it was illegal. Bring it to me. Now." They drove back in silence. Noah pressed his head against the window. The forest passed in green streaks. "Do you think he ever planned to tell you?" Noah asked. "No." Jace's voice was quiet. "I think he planned to keep me so busy and so grateful that I never asked." Mila met them at her office, a cluttered second-floor apartment with walls covered in notes, string maps, and old headlines. She examined the documents for almost an hour, while the boys sat nearby, barely speaking. When she finished, she looked at them both. This is enough to begin legal proceedings. You can press charges, file for a restraining order, and most importantly, you can go public. What happens if we do? Jace asked. There will be backlash. Your name will be in headlines again. But this time, for the truth. I can handle that. What about Noah? We will protect him. I have contacts. We will control the narrative. You both deserve to be heard. Jace nodded slowly. Then we start tonight. Mila reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small digital recorder. She set it on the table between them. Start from the beginning, she said. Jace took a breath, then another. My name is Jace Emery Callahan. I was born on May 21st, 2006 at St. Vivian's Medical Center. For most of my life, I believed I was an only child. I believed I was orphaned, raised by a legal guardian named Raymond Calder. But none of that was true, because a week ago, I met my twin brother, and nothing has been the same since. Noah's voice joined his. My name is Noah. I do not know my last name. I do not remember my parents, but I know my face. I know his. And I know the photo I carried in my backpack all these years has a name written on it. Jace. The life that should have been mine was given away, hidden, rewritten. But I am still here, and I remember. They spoke for over an hour. When they finished, Mila saved the recording and transferred it to 3 different encrypted drives. She smiled at them, exhausted but proud. You did it. No, Jace said. We are just getting started. That night, as the city lights blinked on one by one, Jace and Noah stood side by side at the penthouse window. Down below, the world kept moving, unaware that something had shifted, that the truth had surfaced, that a lie long buried was finally unraveling. We found the hidden room, Jace said. And now we burn it down, Noah replied. They did not speak after that. They did not need to. The truth was between them now, and that was enough. The sun had not yet risen when Mila uploaded the final edit. It was a short video, carefully cut and captioned with portions of Jace and Noah's testimony, layered over newspaper clippings, photos of St. Vivian's, and documents from Evelyn and Haven Ridge. The video was just under 4 minutes long, clear, calm, powerful, no anger, no blame, just truth. Mila scheduled it to publish on 4 platforms at once, including her independent investigative channel, where she had built a small but loyal following over the years. She pressed enter and leaned back, exhaling slowly. It is done, she said aloud, though no one was in the room with her. The morning light crept through the curtains like a soft warning. It had begun. Jace and Noah were in the penthouse when the first wave hit. Jace was at the kitchen table flipping through court documents. Noah stood by the window, his arms crossed, his reflection superimposed against the sky. He had not said much since their recording. He had not needed to. Jace's phone buzzed. Then again. Then again. He picked it up and stared at the screen. Dozens of messages. Mila had tagged him in the post. A journalist he respected had already reposted it with a simple caption. This is the story that will break your heart and make you furious, Noah Jace said. Noah turned. It is happening. Noah nodded. His voice was low. Good. Within the hour, the video had been shared thousands of times. People from across the country began commenting. Some offered support. Some were shocked. Some claimed they had family members who vanished through strange adoptions or birth certificate errors. A few names even matched documents Mila had in her files. The internet, for all its flaws, was responding. Mila called just before noon. The story is trending. We are on 5 national watch lists. I just got a call from a morning news producer asking if you 2 will go live. No, Jace said immediately. Not yet. Not until we are ready. We are not some performance, agreed, Mila said. But I think we lit the fuse. She was right. By evening, the fire had reached the doorstep. Jace was in the living room reviewing security footage from the building entrance when the front desk called. Sir, a Mr. Raymond Calder is here. He says he is your guardian and demands entry. Jace stood. Noah looked up sharply from the couch. Do not let him in, Jace said. There was a pause. He is threatening legal action. Let him. The call ended. 2 minutes later, a knock echoed through the penthouse. Not the buzzer, not the bell. Just a knock. Brazen, heavy, familiar. Jace opened the door. Raymond Calder stood in the hallway in a sharp gray suit and rain-soaked shoes. His hair was combed too precisely. His jaw was tight. He did not wait for permission to speak. You need to take that video down. Right now. Jace leaned against the doorframe. I do not think I will. Raymond stepped forward, but Jace did not move. Everything you are doing is dangerous, Raymond hissed. Reputations are at stake. Business relationships. You have no idea the damage this will cause. You mean your reputation, Jace said. Raymond's eyes narrowed. You ungrateful little fool. After everything I gave you. You gave me money, Jace replied. You gave me a name. But you also gave away my brother. Raymond's face twitched. I did what I had to do. You were supposed to have a better life, clean, controlled, safe. And what about Noah? Jace asked, his voice sharp. Was he just the cost of my comfort? Raymond said nothing. Jace stepped forward, now his voice rising. You lied to me. You stole from him. You made sure we never found each other. And for what? So you could control everything you do not understand. Raymond snapped. There were powerful people involved. You were part of a promise. I protected you. You protected yourself, Jace said coldly. And now it is over. Raymond's voice dropped. I still have legal authority. Not anymore. Mila filed for guardianship review. The state will revoke it within the week. You think that matters? I have contacts in every courtroom between here and the coast. Then they will fall too, Jace said, because now we are not silent. Noah stepped into the hallway beside him. He looked at Raymond without blinking. You remember me? Raymond flinched. You used to visit the shelter sometimes, Noah said. You wore sunglasses inside and said you were with the board, but you never looked me in the eye. Now I know why. Raymond straightened. This is not over. It is for you, Jace said. You can leave or I can call the police. Raymond stared at him for one long second. Then he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the hall like fading thunder. Inside, Noah closed the door and locked it. You think he will come back? Probably, Jace said. But next time, he will not knock. That night, they received an invitation from one of the most respected investigative news anchors in the country. Mila forwarded the message. The anchor had seen the video. He wanted to do a full segment, pre-recorded, on their terms. It is the platform we need, Mila said. Jace looked at Noah. Your call. Noah hesitated. Then he nodded. If we do this, we do it together. The interview was set for 3 days later. The station sent a discreet crew to Mila's office where Jace and Noah sat under soft lights and told their story again. This time, it was longer, deeper. They showed the documents, read from Evelyn's letter, played a small clip of the DNA match. The producers cried behind the cameras. No one tried to interrupt. No one doubted them. When the segment aired on Friday night, it went national. By morning, every major outlet had picked it up. Some headlines read as scandal, others as hope. But all carried the same truth. 2 boys, separated, hidden, reunited. The public response was overwhelming. Hashtags trended. Viewers flooded the network with questions. Legal experts debated implications. The state of Oregon announced it would review adoption and guardianship practices from the early 2000s. A senator issued a statement promising a formal inquiry, but it was the messages from strangers that mattered most. A woman from Chicago wrote that her sister had been taken from her family during a closed-door adoption. A man from Seattle remembered a boy in his foster group who looked just like a kid from the news story. A nurse from St. Vivian's finally reached out to Mila and confirmed Evelyn's story. Every thread led to another. By the end of the week, Mila had a list of 16 other suspicious cases tied to Raymond Calder and his network. Most had been swept under piles of paper lost to time and fear. Now they were being dusted off, re-examined, reopened. Jace stood by the window again, looking out at the city. Noah sat behind him, sketching something quietly. They were no longer strangers, no longer halves. You realize we started something that cannot be stopped. Now, Jace said. Noah nodded. Good. Because if we were broken by the truth, we are also remade by it. Jace turned. What are you drawing? Noah held up the paper. A house. 2 figures standing on a roof. One with a flashlight. One with a match. What is that? Jace asked. Noah smiled faintly. It is us, searching, and burning down the past so something better can grow. Jace stared at it. Then he smiled too. Let it burn. The courthouse sat like a fortress in the center of downtown, a grim structure of stone and steel surrounded by iron gates and long lines of strangers. On the morning of the custody hearing, the sky was iron gray, and the air was sharp with cold. Jace stood on the front steps, his coat buttoned to the collar, his hands jammed in his pockets. Beside him, Noah adjusted his sleeves as if trying to straighten a suit jacket that had never belonged to him. Neither boy spoke. They had said everything they needed to say the night before. Mila arrived first, her satchel packed with copies of evidence witness statements, Evelyn's sworn affidavit, and the full DNA report. She moved like a woman who had fought battles in rooms just like this one, and knew exactly how much truth to carry without drowning in it. A few reporters waited at the base of the steps, their cameras flashing as the group entered the building. Mila did not let either boy stop. Inside, the courtroom smelled like wood polish and nerves. The gallery was only half full, but the silence was heavy. At the front sat the judge, a woman named Harriet Bloom, who had presided over family courts for more than 30 years. Her hair was silver and pulled back into a low twist. Her expression did not change when she saw the twins enter. The bailiff called the case. The court is now in session for review of guardianship and emergency custody concerning minors Jace Emery Callahan and Noah James. Parties present, please rise. Jace stood. Noah followed. Mila introduced herself on their behalf. The opposing counsel stood across the aisle, flanked by Raymond Calder, and a stiff-faced woman in a gray pantsuit who claimed to be the temporary guardian appointed by Raymond years ago. Her name was Patricia Winters, a name no one had heard until now. Judge Bloom looked over her glasses. Counsel, you may begin. Mila stepped forward. Your Honor, what we bring before you today is not a typical petition. It is not a child seeking emancipation or a parent seeking custody. What we present is evidence of a coordinated fraud. 2 boys, identical twins, separated at birth by illegal adoption arrangements, facilitated by the man who stands in this room claiming to be a guardian. She gestured toward Raymond, who stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Jace Callahan, the petitioner, has lived his entire life under the legal guardianship of Mr. Calder, unaware that his twin brother Noah existed. Noah, in contrast, has spent his life in shelters in the system, often without a name, without identity, without protection. We now know this separation was not accidental. It was orchestrated. She handed the judge the packet. This includes sworn testimony from Evelyn Sorrell, a former nurse at the hospital where the boys were born, documentation from a now-defunct foster center, and a verified DNA match confirming that Jace and Noah are full siblings. These boys are family. That fact is no longer in question. The question now is what kind of future they deserve. The judge turned to the opposing counsel. Do you have a response? Patricia Winters stood stiffly. Your Honor, while the circumstances are certainly unusual, we maintain that Mr. Calder acted within his legal bounds as the appointed guardian of Jace Callahan. At the time of his guardianship, no record existed of a sibling. Furthermore, it is our position that the recent video campaign and public exposure were an intentional effort to destabilize Mr. Calder's reputation and gain media sympathy. We dispute the relevance of the so-called adoption conspiracy. Judge Bloom raised a hand. Let us address one issue at a time. Is there any evidence to refute the DNA report? No, Your Honor. Is there any legal claim for guardianship over Noah? None that has been filed or substantiated? Your Honor. Then unless new evidence is introduced, this court must operate on the presumption that these 2 minors are siblings with no living parents and therefore fall under the jurisdiction of family services. The court will determine their placement based on best interest. At this, Raymond stood. Your Honor, may I speak? Judge Bloom looked at him. You may. He walked forward slowly, every movement rehearsed. I understand how this looks. I understand how these accusations sound. But I want to clarify something. I never meant to hurt either of these boys. What I did to give Jace a life of opportunity of safety. I saw potential in him, and I knew the system would eat him alive if I did not step in. And what about the other child, the judge asked. Raymond's voice faltered. That decision was made under pressure. I had donors, investors, people who did not want complications. Twins were a complication. I was told one would be enough. By whom I cannot say, Your Honor. You will need to. I do not have names. Then you will need a lawyer, the judge said flatly. Raymond blinked. Because what you have just admitted in open court may constitute a violation of state and federal law. Raymond sat down heavily. Noah stood without prompting. He did not wait for permission. Your Honor, I would like to speak. Judge Bloom nodded. I do not have a lot of fancy words. I do not know legal things, but I know what it feels like to be erased. I know what it is to go to sleep without knowing your name. I did not ask for any of this. But now that I know the truth, I want one thing. A chance to live. A chance to be a brother. A chance to be seen. He paused, and a place to belong. Jace stepped forward next to him. Me too. The courtroom went quiet. Judge Bloom looked at the two boys standing shoulder to shoulder. I have seen many things in this courtroom, but I rarely see the truth spoken so plainly. This court rules in favor of joint kinship placement under the supervision of Miss Mila Grant with full custody, to be revisited pending further investigation into the actions of Mr. Raymond Calder and his affiliates. This court is adjourned. The gavel struck once. It was done. Outside, the air smelled like rain and pavement. The reporters surged forward, cameras blinking, questions flying. Jace and Noah stood still as Mila spoke on their behalf. She gave no details. She promised further statements in writing. She shielded them with her body like a wall made of steel and principle. Later, back at the penthouse, the boys sat on the floor eating grilled cheese sandwiches. Mila paced behind them, phone in hand, fielding press inquiries and police interviews. You think he will go to jail? Noah asked. Eventually, Jace said. If not for what he did to us, then for what he did to others. You think there were more? I know there were. And now we have to find them. Noah took a bite of his sandwich. For the first time in a long time, he felt full. Not just in his stomach, but in his chest. In the space where grief had lived for too long, something else had started to grow. He looked at his brother. We did it. Jace smiled. We are just getting started. And for the first time since they met, neither of them looked back. The days that followed were a quiet storm, not the kind that ripped through roofs and split trees, but the kind that shifted everything beneath the surface, the kind that changed how light came through the windows. Every morning, Noah woke up on the pull-out bed in the spare room of Jace's penthouse, not quite used to sheets that smelled like detergent and floors that hummed when the heater kicked in. And every morning, Jace would leave a note on the kitchen counter. Sometimes just a word, sometimes a whole sentence. Still here, bagels in the oven. I had the dream again. Noah would read the notes twice before folding them into his sketchbook. He never asked what dream Jace meant. He already knew. It was the one where they had grown up side by side, the one where birthdays were shared and no one was forgotten. Mila had temporarily moved her workspace to the penthouse library, which she converted into a makeshift war room. Names covered the whiteboard, red strings, printouts, pins and a map of Oregon. She rarely spoke while she worked, but her presence was a kind of shield. On the third day after the hearing, she handed Jace a new folder with a name circled in blue ink. Nora Desai, born in the same year, filed through the same agency, fostered out, never adopted. Jace read the file slowly. You think she was part of the same network? Almost definitely, Mila said. Her file disappeared for 7 years, no record of schooling. Then she reappears with a new name and no family. Can we find her? Already did. She is in Portland. I reached out. She agreed to talk. Noah looked up from the couch. I want to go with you. So do I, Jace said. The next morning they drove together, not in the Blacktown car Jace used for press events, but in a rented sedan faded blue with one cracked vent. It felt more honest. They reached Portland by noon. The address led to a second-floor apartment above a laundromat. Nora Desai opened the door after the second knock. She was 21, slim, with eyes that looked like they had seen too much and still chose to stay open. She recognized the twins immediately. You look like the poster, she said, stepping aside. I guess that makes this real. She made tea. She never sat. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, while they told her what they knew. About Evelyn, about Raymond Calder, about St. Vivian's, and the name changes, and the falsified paperwork. Nora did not blink. I figured, she said. They never let me stay anywhere longer than 8 months. Every time someone got close, they pulled me out, told me I was difficult, that I had a history of aggression. But I never did, not once. Do you think you have family still out there? Noah asked. Nora shook her head. I stopped thinking that mattered a long time ago. I just wanted to know I was not crazy. You are not, Jace said. After they left, she handed them a thumb drive. I used to sneak into the counselor's office at one of the homes, copied some files. Most are boring, but there are names and phone numbers. Maybe you will find someone who matters. Back in the car, Noah stared out the window. There are more of us. Yes, Jace said, and we will find them. When they returned to the penthouse, the red strings doubled. Mila stayed up past midnight cataloging the names on the thumb drive. By morning, she had matched 3 to defunct shelters and 1 to a woman now working in state legislation. On Saturday, Noah stood by the door holding his jacket. Jace looked up from the dining table. Going somewhere? I want to visit the old shelter, the one in Ridgeway. Yes. You want company? No. This one is for me. Jace nodded. Text me when you get there. Noah took the train. The platform smelled like metal and wind. The ride was 2 hours through rust-colored hills and small towns with names he had never learned. The shelter was still standing, though barely. Windows cracked, grass overgrown. A condemned sign near the side entrance. Noah stood in front of it for a long time. A woman passed with a grocery cart and stopped. You looking for someone? No. Just remembering. She nodded. That place was bad. My cousin stayed there once. Came out worse. Noah said nothing. She walked on. He sat on the curb and pulled out his sketchbook. Drew the building, the cracks, the silence. Then he turned the page and drew something new. A long table, plates full of warm food, kids laughing, a wall of drawings, a door always open. He labeled it Haven Ridge 2. He sent a photo of the drawing to Jace. The reply came 1 minute later. Let's build it. That night they stayed up past 2 in the morning drafting ideas. Mila joined in, suggesting legal models, zoning loopholes, outreach connections. Jace called a friend in real estate. By the end of the week, they had an offer on a property outside the city. It was a former youth camp, 7 cabins, a central lodge, a garden overrun with weeds, but full of promise. We will name it Haven Ridge 2, Noah said. It will be a home for the ones still searching, Jace added. 3 weeks later, they held a small event on the new property. No cameras, no press, just them. Mila, Nora, and 6 other young adults who had reached out after the video. Each one had a story, a gap, a question. Each one had been waiting for someone to say, "You belong." Jace stood under a half-broken archway and looked around. You realize this is what they feared, right? That we would find each other. And now, we are everywhere, Noah said. In the weeks that followed, construction crews arrived. Volunteers painted. Donations rolled in from quiet allies who had followed the story and believed in the cause. Jace sold one of his companies to fund the first year. Noah worked with local artists to build a mural on the lodge wall. It was a long line of figures holding hands walking into the light. One day, as they were unpacking chairs in the main hall, Jace found Noah staring out the window. "You good?" Noah turned. "I had that dream again, the one where we are kids, at a birthday party. You have chocolate on your face. I am missing a tooth. No one is watching us. But we are happy." "Maybe it was not a dream," Jace said. "Maybe it is a memory that never happened, but should have." "Then let's give it to someone else," Noah said. They stood side by side as the sun went down, casting long shadows across the wooden floors. The building creaked like it was waking up after a long sleep. Jace looked at Noah. "This was never supposed to happen, but it did. And we made it. Not just survived," Noah said. "Made something from the broken parts." Jace smiled. "Let's keep building." Noah nodded. "Together. Thank you for walking this journey with us." In a world that tried to keep them apart, two brothers found not just the truth, but each other. And from that broken past, they built something no one could take away: family hope and a home for others like them. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments. We read every word. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. When you're ready for your next emotional journey, just click the video on your screen. We promise it's one you won't forget. Thanks for being here. See you in the next story.